Whoa, freeze frame. Before this video gets started, I want to mention that I do not show any farming loadouts in this entire video because my farming loadouts video linked down below is perfectly fine. There's nothing about ventures that would prevent any of these loadouts from working, so check that video out down below if you guys want to start looting in ventures. Alright, so this is kind of a fun ventures video to make because I skipped the last time that this modifier was a thing. I didn't make a video on it because I figured this modifier is dumb. So let's get into it and why I kind of disagree with that now. So what goes on in Hexsylvania is there's this fog, which I never see because I have shadows off and stuff, so I don't ever see it. But if you are further away than 2 tiles, enemies will take reduced damage from weapons, abilities, and traps, which is essentially just about every way that we can do damage. However, if you or a defender, this is kind of a key thing. I won't have any footage of this in my gameplay because I literally just found out about this in prep for the video, but if you slap down defenders, even if they're not holding a weapon, the modifier is dispelled. So if you or a defender are in range of one of those husks, it's just basically, you know, it negates the modifier, and they'll take 50% more damage when you are in range, not necessarily the defenders, which means abilities like Dragon Slash are really good. Standing next to your Teddy and your Shock Tower is really, really good. Using a shotgun or a melee, which forces you to be up close and personal, is really, really good. And I think that's kind of why I skipped this in the first time around, was because I saw that as like, okay, well, a season where you just used a shotgun build in Luna. Woo. But I think nowadays we can actually have a little bit of fun with this. So there's going to be quite a few loadouts in this video. I'm going to spend more time on some than others. So let's get into it. I'm going to start off with my new favorite ability, Boom Base. It's not really an ability so much as it is a team perk, and it got kind of a passive buff lately, and that it has always done a 12% crit rating buff for all you and your teammates, and a 12% damage buff and a 15 crit rating buff, and that's really, really nice. So you're going to crit more often and do more damage, and that works for melees and shotguns and ranged weapons and everything. I'm saying shotguns because that might be kind of what you want to run. The trick is it always used to require kind of a dead perk, and it sort of still does. Let me explain. I'm going to be a little bit in the way here, so let's put me in the middle for now. Right now, all of the rad heroes almost all of the rad heroes buff the perk, which means Dennis Jr. now affects it. You get the Power Pop Penny, you get the Sub Wafers, and I'm using Battle Beat, which is a really, really nice bonus. Every 10 kills within 9 seconds will give you an attack speed bonus and damage bonus. Really, really nice to have. It's a lot more useful than the other options. And I say almost. That's why I was so tripped up when I said this. Is that's because Fumble remains to be the only rad hero that doesn't activate this team perk, and I believe that's unintentional. So if sometime in the future Fumble is working for activating this team perk, then he'll be dropping footballs on the ground, you'll be getting kills. Both of these will just make you shoot faster, swing faster, or shoot more damage, swing faster, and it's kind of a really, really nice support perk to have. For now, I'm using Sid here because he has the overall best stat product, so you can see that if I actually swap him out for a different hero, my health will go down. So even though I kind of need a dead perk here, other than Sub Wafers, which, okay, if you want to eat Sub Wafers throughout the fight, that's good. You guys know I really like coconuts, so I don't like that extra thing to eat. But if you're fine with Sub Wafers, that can activate the ability on command. I prefer to just stick to Sid, get that extra health, and not really think about it too much. And that is where the customizability is awesome. If you hate coconuts or if you don't have it, by the way, a lot of new players are starting to play right now, and I want to reiterate that Coconuts gives you a ton of health and, well, damage. He gives you a 16% damage bonus, and you can unlock him anytime. Right here, just in the collection book, Recruit. I know that it starts you off with enough flux in the early game. I think it's like 200 flux from challenges and whatnot, and you already have enough manuals. I have seen people who are really, really low power level unlock him day 1, so I recommend it. I use him in almost every loadout. But if you don't want coconuts, there is pretty much all the options. I'm not going to build the loadout for you exactly. I know that that's what this video is for, but I'd have to talk about everything. So just give a couple examples here. If you want to build a shotgun loadout, you can use Locked and Reloaded, which will buff your damage. This is a Halloween hero. She should be coming out soon or in the llamas. I'm not 100% sure if she's available, but Skull Ranger Ramirez should be, and I think Skull Trooper is. So basically the male doppelganger is absolutely available. I think I just got him from a llama today. So he'll increase your damage by 50%, same as the chick. I just prefer the chick because whatever, it's a chick. And if you want to buff your shotgun, you can use, Shell Shock. I've got her supercharged, which is usually a good sign. And again, if you don't like coconuts, you can just use Raptor, for example. And now you've got essentially a shotgun build that is basically a boom-based build, and that'll buff your entire team as well. If you want to run melees, just go through the ninjas. You can use Luna. It might not be recommended with Outblast in the past, but she's still going to be good. Just scroll through your ninjas. I mean, Assassin Sarah is really, really powerful. Corrosive Strikes is really nice, which is also good because you're buffing your crit rating with boom base, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Just find any hero in the entire game that is going to work for you and your build. Pick a weapon you want to use, make it happen. For a freebie, if you're not running Ventures, I've been running Stoneheart Farah. Believe it or not, I've been turning this into a bow build, and it's been really, really fun. I'm also going to talk about the commander here. I'm running Base Kyle because you do need a base to go down whenever you're activating the boom base. It requires a base. That's how it works. And Base Kyle is, in my opinion, just the chonkiest constructor. I mean, he increases the health of your building by a ton. This will stop smashers pretty much no matter what. And if you or a teammate want to run it, you can coordinate this with your pals. If you guys want to find some people to play with, link to our Discord down below. Be super friendly, be super nice. Nobody has to play with you, but it's a great place to meet people. Somebody can run power-based Nox. I use Penny for the flex, but Nox is the big black dude alternative. It's the same thing. You guys can just use his exact same ability. I use Penny. Any power-based hero is still going to buff it, and it's a really, really good hero to have. I personally just prefer to have the health straight up because, it's just more instant, and it's a really, really nice thing to have. Is a constructor, and you're kind of running like assault weapon loadouts, but you can run anything as well. It's a really good, well-rounded build, not even just for Ventures, but in general as well. All right, spend a lot of time on boom base. Let's move on to something a little more universal. We're going to go real quick because I've covered Minigun like 7 different times on this channel. I think we know the drill. I'm just going to go over it quick for the newbies. Sub-Commando Jonesy is, again, another flex of mine. I like to use him just because I can. You are looking for Commando Spitfire. He is a super easy-to-get base game hero. You can collect him right from the collection book, just like you did with the coconuts. That might even be worth it. I prefer a legendary copy, of course. Don't use a purple one. But this cooldown being reduced by 66% plus Happy Holidays, which... Again, if I'm speaking to the newbies out here, you can research by going into Event People, go down to the Holiday section, boom, and find, where is he? Ted. Ted is the only one that you can research with manuals, I believe. You can't go to Jilly Teacup and do that. It's going to require a voucher. Don't spend a voucher on this. Just buy Ted. Not only do you want Ted because he will give you Happy Holidays. I'm covering it, which is the exact team perk that we want. But also, he's a minigun hero himself. So... pretty good win-win on there. I'm not using him in my loadout, but this would buff the damage, and it's a nice thing to have because Happy Holidays reduces all of your abilities by 40%, the cooldown. It's a super nice ability, and it's probably going to come up again later on in this video, so I am using Ted. There you go. If I couldn't recommend him even further, there you go. Of course, the usual suspects, that's not who I was trying to look for. There we go. Diecast Jonesy increases the damage by 25%, probably the best minigun bonus you can get. Fuel for the Fallen might not be available. You can find an alternative. I felt like it was worth it to have like an energy hero on this because miniguns are 50 energy and you're pulling it out like every 6 seconds. So you might not need him. I think I was running dungeons or something, just wanted to be safe. There are tons of options, you guys. Just scroll down, find anything you need. Just a couple of things like Resonant Frequency buffs energy damage. So if you're running maybe Boomstick in the lead, you'll have an energy minigun. This could be really good. Battle Beat won't actually buff the minigun, unfortunately, so it's not going to work as well. Editing Beast here. It turns out Battlebeat does actually buff damage on the minigun, so she might actually be a pretty good pick. There are a couple of heroes like Stone Commando, which I don't love, but an extra snowball every once in a while can do a little bit of extra damage to fire enemies. I encourage you to scroll through whatever heroes you have available and try to make it work. And yeah. Couple of these, though, I am using Archetype Havoc. He is base game, so you can unlock him just through the challenges. Whenever you shockwave, you move faster. Again, this sort of doubles as a dungeon loadout, and Doppler Effect is there to reduce the cooldown of your shockwave, and that just means you're going to be hitting the ground, hitting enemies around you, and then you're just going to run faster all throughout the map. And yeah, minigun is always super good. Remember to keep it within 2-tile range of the enemies so that you can actually get that minigun bonus. we're going to talk about Paleo Luna as well. This is kind of a twofer. So in the early game, Blakebeard's stash is great because you're going to get those peg legs, you're going to get cannonballs, and you're going to get coconuts. And you might not have this, but the pirate event was a couple months ago, so you should have been able to get it. It was a couple seasons ago for Ventures, and it's a really nice ability because you're not relying on weapons. You can have your gray, crappy weapons that Venture starts out with in game number 1, but with peg legs being as strong as they are and cannonballs being as good as they are, and once you get that ball rolling, killing a bunch of enemies, that first treasure chest might be really hard at 5%. Hopefully this gets buffed in the future. Once you get going, you're good to go, and I really think peg legs is just a great staple. I think I've recommended it in pretty much every season of Ventures. You might notice that we're running Paleo Luna in the lead here. I think I used my supercharged one for gameplay, so sorry. Paleo Luna is great because she just buffs your damage by a ton, and she's mostly here for the part 2 of this. I also want to recommend quickly Corrosive Strikes is great because peg legs do have like a 30-odd% chance to crit. It's pretty high, so doing some extra damage is nice. If you don't have her, just as usual, scroll through your ninjas, find something that helps, you know, medicinal fumes, and maybe you want smoke bomb. I don't know. Lots of stuff can work here. Battle Beat is something I've been turned on to recently as well because eliminating 10 enemies and blah 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 is getting you a nice little swing speed bonus, and you guys know that Paleo Luna likes attack speed, and Battle Beat should be really accessible because she was available in the Rad Llamas like a week ago, and you had over 2 months to farm them. So unless you just started playing, which is fine, a lot of you might have access to her and you might not even know that she's in your inventory. Now, part 2 of this build is something I can just sort of demonstrate in another build. Let me just see. I always have Blast in the Past set up. So basically take like a shotgun build here, which is a freebie for you here. Paleo Luna in the lead. Saurian Hide is always great. You really want Prehistoric Isa just to increase your armor. Again, these dinos were available as of a week ago. Hopefully you have them available, but this is only for people who, of course, can run Blast in the Past. I recommend Southie to a lot of people because Saurian Focus, getting that energy is really, really good just for using abilities. But if you're not using any of the abilities from Luna, which is understandable, then Saurian Vigor sucks, but, you know, increases your health passively. You can't really go wrong with that. Even though it's a super tiny amount of health, it's still, you know, it's still health. And then from there, you can run basically the regular build that I was just showing. You can use something like Whiteout Fiona, who has come around a little bit, ups the crit rating of swords, axes, and scythes. Remember, we're not using peg legs anymore. We're using just any good melee that you find. This is why I recommend it later on in the game, because you kind of need to loot around adventures, use those vending machines, get good weapons, and once you get that ball rolling, that's when you want to pull out a Blast in the Past build for Paleo Luna. And from here, again, I'm just going to keep recommending different heroes. Whiteout Fiona and Corrosive Strikes is a great combo because she buffs your crit rating, she buffs your crit hits, and it's a really nice combo. I'm going to leave coconuts in here because if you're running Blast in the Past, you really, really want to have coconuts. All right, this is more of an early game build, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, especially because I covered it in my last season's Ventures video, but Fragment Flurry Jess is basically a Shock Tower and Teddy spam build. Remember, you have to be the commander within range of the enemies, so you'll watch your Teddy doing way less damage until you move in range of the enemies, and it makes a big difference. So be sure to be standing where the Teddy is aiming or right on top of the Shock Tower when you throw it, which isn't too hard because it's a Shock Tower, but I definitely recommend Fragment Flurry because she just gives you a ton of charge fragments whenever you get eliminations. Charge fragments mean you can throw down your Teddy or Shock Tower earlier, and they used to do more damage. They don't do that anymore, but you can spam them without energy, which is also super nice. So every 13 eliminations should not be too hard if you're in your correct level and you're not getting carried, and it's a really, really nice ability to have. Happy Holidays has come up again because you want to spam them as much as possible. Gumshoe, never officially released in like an event or anything, but she is in the Art Deco section, so you can just go to the event people in the collection book, straight to Art Deco. Gumshoe is one of the best heroes in the game for Shock Tower and Teddy because she just, as long as you're throwing them with a charge fragment, gives you a 30% damage bonus, which is fantastic. Berserker, Trailblazer Quinn, super easy base game hero, 30% damage to the Teddy, no questions asked. Static Cling, Wild Fragment Deadeye, I believe is a Hit the Road hero or a Wild West hero, one of those. You can poke around the collection book to find him. That extra affliction just ticks away for a little bit of extra damage, and it's just nice to have. I really, really like using him because the Shock Tower doesn't last that long, and him giving extra damage afterward is a really nice bonus to have. Coconuts, of course, don't need to get into that. And Impossibility Matrix. Not a priority hero, not someone that I really recommended in the event shop last time. With dinos being available, he was like the 10th best pick. But if you have him, if you're using a fragment, he'll give the cooldown an extra 10%, which is really nice. And as usual, if you don't have him, you can look for like any other hero that might be nice. Clip could be good for farming. Speaking of which, if you guys want to farm adventures, get going. Farming loadouts link down below. All of them apply business as usual, but there are a lot of different things. You can use Under Warranty from Jilly Teacup. You can use Gadgeteer to throw your abilities more often. There's all sorts of different options. Outlanders have a lot going for them, but I chose Impossibility Matrix. Note, this is a physical Teddy, which means once you get to the higher zones, your Teddy's not going to be doing as much damage, and that's where things can get a little complicated. I used Cyberclops last season Adventures, and I'm pretty sure this entire build works the same, but your cooldown will be quite a bit more, so you're not going to be throwing your Teddy nearly as often. So it's not maybe the best pick, but Cyberclops will work a lot better in the end game once you're dealing with elemental enemies. All right, we're going to make this one quick because I pretty much just covered it today in my Dungeons video, although I uploaded it today as of recording. I'm going to go very quick. This is just a Black Knight Garridan build with Director Riggs and support to give you more time in Goin Constructor. This is carbon copy, essentially the exact same build as Dungeons, except that I'm using coconuts now that we're in Ventures. So if you're running this in Dungeons, I think you can just switch it to Fleet or something and you're good to go. And that's not for a lack of creativity on my part. It's just that Goin Constructor is kind of a really strong ability for taking down bigger targets in Ventures, and there aren't that many options. I'm not just being lazy or uncreative. Trust me, you can try to build a Goin Constructor loadout. It's not that easy. There is not a lot of creativity here, but it's a fun build to use. So I'm not going to get too far into it in this video because I already covered it in my dungeon video linked down below. There are timestamps, so finding it should be super easy, barely an inconvenience. All right. I mentioned this earlier. Yeah, we're clapping for all of them because I love these builds. Dragon Slash is really strong. In fact, when I was recording gameplay for this, I got so lost in the encampments that I basically stopped reading chat on stream. It's just so good. And I think that's because I didn't really realize that 50% bonus was active. So long as you are in range of the Dragon Slash, which is physically impossible to not be because you are the Dragon Slash, you are doing 50% more damage, which is a really nice ability. This is an old build that I've showed a ton of times, and that just goes to show that like these heroes in this build are worth investing in because Dragon Slash is useful in Hit the Road. It's useful for clearing enemies in encampments, as you're seeing. It's great in this Venture season, so always good to use. Happy Holidays is kind of a funny perk because the Dragon Slash actually has about a 10-second cooldown. So Happy Holidays is giving you 6 seconds to wait instead of 4. Also in my gameplay, I did have a ninja cooldown ability modifier on the mission. Those are super rare, and it did make this look a lot stronger than it is. It's not that big of a difference because it's only making my cooldown 4 seconds instead of 6, but just I wanted to note that so that you guys don't get misrepresented on how strong this is. I also do have a Supercharged Dragon Scorch because, I mean, Superchargers buff the abilities of heroes and the ability damage, I should say. So Dragon Slash, Throwing Stars, and Smoke Bomb doing like 14-ish% more damage is not a bad deal. So if you can supercharge them in the late game, go for it. I think Dragon Scorch is really worth it. I use them all the time. And then for the rest of this build, I've covered it before, but Sarah Hotep is really nice. She's available in the Fortnite Mare's Llamas. She'll reduce your energy cost by 30%. Dragon Slash is a 50 energy ability, and you're going to be spamming it often enough to where that 30% reduction will really, really matter. Tail of the Dragon comes from Snuggle Specialist. She comes from the Valentine's season, the Easter season, same as I mentioned in the previous video. Around Easter, February-ish is when she's available, but if you have her, Dragon Slash leaves behind an energy trail. Nothing that I'd recommend a voucher on, but if you have her, she's really nice. This is the one you can pick whatever you want hero perk. I chose Dimbot just to spam smoke bombs more often, but if you want just a little bit of extra healing, you can use Alchemist Sarah. She comes out in the wintertime, but Medicinal Fumes is really nice. She just heals you with the smoke bomb. It's super nice. That also works for teammates, so if you want to just heal your teammates, throw a smoke bomb down and they'll appreciate it. Fuel for the Fallen is surprising because you are going to be using the Dragon Slash, the Shurikens, the smoke bomb a lot, and Fallen Love Ranger Jonesy will restore energy for every kill that you get, and he'll definitely keep you in the fight. I can't really think of a really good energy alternative. There are a couple of options like Dennis Jr., who is kind of nice because he'll give you health and energy for the burgers, and you're going to be running around cleaving through crowds of enemies anyway. So if you have Dennis Jr. and you don't have Fuel for the Fallen, it might be a good alternative, but I think Fuel for the Fallen is just a little more consistent, so I prefer him personally, but you can do whatever. I know, coconuts again, but if it's good, it's good. I'm not going to not recommend it. But you can use, again, whatever you want. Just any perk that you find is useful is good to go for. And there's an alternate version of this build. You can, again, not use Happy Holidays, wait a little longer for your abilities, and use Blast from the Past instead. I'm actually going to swap out Fuel for the Fallen for Southy, so you can get that focus. And then Medicinal Fumes, you can just swap that out for Saurian Hide. You definitely want Iza to have extra health. And this is where things get a little tricky, because if you don't want that extra health, you can use Jurassic Ken. He will buff all of your ability damage by 20%. You will be a little more frail if you replace Iza, so you're going to have to be a little tricky here, but I wouldn't really replace anything else in this build. Coconuts is critical for staying alive, and an extra 16% damage is nice. So this is a little more of a glass cannon build, but you do have Blast from the Past, so you're going to have a lot more health to work with. Even without Iza, you're going to be, I think, strong enough. And Saurian Fight buffing all of your damage by 20% is super nice. Archer, you guys probably know him from my daily videos. He helps a lot behind the scenes, and he streams with us sometimes. He is almost level 50 in Ventures, probably will be by the time you're seeing this video, and he's been using Dragon Slash, almost this exact build, for a while. He was using the Happy Holidays version that we just switched away from, so if you really want like a really tried and true endgame build, that was it. And speaking of it, we're just going to end on a shotgun build. I don't even have any new gameplay for this. I just don't feel like it's necessary. Shotguns are super, super refined. If you're just trying to stay close and you get a good shotgun in the late game, I don't have one. That's why I don't have any Ventures gameplay of it. Shrapnel Headhunter is a fantastic hero. She just gives you a flat 50% buff. Can't go wrong. That'll work with any shotgun you get. If you have like a high crit rating shotgun, then a crit damage Buckshot Raptor could be just as good. They are roughly tied in the lead. It's not really a big thing. You can use Totally Rockin' Out on this build as well. I don't always recommend it, but in Ventures especially, where you want to be doing as much damage as possible, especially from range, this can help a lot, and I'm going to let you go to your own devices on that. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Just use maybe like Battle Beat, and then in the support, you can go, oops, not that one. You can use Fumble or whoever. Fumble would make sure that you're never eating any wafers, and Battle Beat, you're getting kills anyway, so just like that, you have a Totally Rockin' Out build. In Totally Rockin' Out, however, the Buckshot Raptor is way better than Shrapnel Headhunter. Your crit rating is so high that 225% really takes over. So yeah, shotguns are really solid. I don't know what else to tell you. We kind of talked about it earlier, so we're not going to get too far into it now, but yeah, that just wraps it up for Adventures Season 7 loadouts. But if this modifier is unchanged in the future, then the title of this video might get changed. Sorry if I did you dirty on that one, but if the modifier hasn't changed, I don't know why I'd need to remake the video. Maybe we come up with some more ideas. I don't know. If you guys want to support the channel, feel free to use code Mista. I support Archer. You can do so if you want, but if you guys want to support the channel, I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. And then